So Donald Trump's shutdown has entered its fifth week, and the heads of various departments are beginning to speak out. Now, one of those is the Coast Guard. And according to CNN, the commandant of the U.S. Coast Guard said on Tuesday that the situation was unacceptable. The fact that Coast Guard members are not getting paid and now have to rely on food pantries and donations due to the shutdown. This is Commandant Admiral Carl L. Schultz. He said in a video to his service members, he said, quote, "We're 5+ weeks into the anxiety and stress of this government lapse and your non-pay. You, as members of the armed forces, should not be expected to shoulder this burden." Now, what's interesting about this statement is that he's basically spelling out this is what we're going through. This is how difficult it is, without actually calling out Trump, because he's actually not able to. So, as a member of the Coast Guard, right, can't actually criticize the president. But from the statement, it's very strong. A very strong statement, right? But it is, actually. The anxiety and stress of the government lapse. And he says, you should not be expected to shoulder this burden. Schultz said he and the Coast Guard leadership team stand in awe of your continued dedication to duty and resilience in that of your families. He said he was also heartened by the outpouring of support from local communities across the nation. But, he said, ultimately I find it unacceptable that Coast Guard men and women have to rely on food pantries and donations to get through day-to-day life as service members. It is unacceptable. He's absolutely right. It is unacceptable for anybody to have to rely on food pantries to live, especially if you're working. And look, that's what a lot of these people end up having to do in the Coast Guard right now. And a lot of government workers are also lining up at food pantries to be able to feed their families. And a lot of people are really being hurt by this shutdown. And the president, Republicans in Congress, people like Mitch McConnell, ultimately don't care. So, and by the way, why is it Mitch McConnell's fault? As I pointed out in previous videos, McConnell continues to refuse to take up a bill opening up the government. Now, why? Well, of course, these bills, passed by both the House and the Senate before, rejected by Trump, would likely get enough support now to override a presidential veto. Now, this is a bill without funding for the wall. McConnell says, I'm not going to take up anything that's not going to have funding for the wall. Now, why is that? Well, it's because McConnell's a political creature. He's making a political calculation that standing strong for a wall that is deeply unpopular and supporting a shutdown that is also deeply unpopular, even among Trump supporters, is somehow a great political calculation. I don't know. Maybe he's got some different internal polling, right? Again, only 77% of voters think we should think that we should fund the wall in order to end the shutdown, right? The other 93% is filled with people who both support and oppose the wall on policy grounds that say don't play games with the government. Don't play games with these people's jobs, these lives, and people who depend on this program. Don't hold hostages in order to get what you want. Do it some other way. Get your funding some other way. Don't use government as a hostage to get your policy goals, especially ones that won't even actually work. As I've said before, I point out every time that a majority of newly undocumented immigrants are people that fly in and overstay their visas. That's what happens. And it's been that way for at least the last 7 years, the 7th year in a row, that people flying in and overstaying visas is the primary driver of undocumented immigration. It's not border crossings. It's not people crossing the border. That's the problem. No, most immigrants come here and overstay their visas, become undocumented, and that's what happens in this country. And that's a fact. Now, the problem here that we have is a president who's putting a vanity project above the good of the country and acting like a child who won't get his way. Not only that, but we again have skeevy politicians like Mitch McConnell who continue to refuse to put a bill on the floor to have a vote. Again, that vote would likely win and we would overrule President Trump's veto, opening the government and funding these things like the Coast Guard and food stamp recipients and things like that. But unfortunately, he is in the way. There are two people in the way of ending the shutdown, and one is Donald Trump. So, look, how do we fix this? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know when the shutdown's going to end. But I do know that if you want to prevent something like this from happening, you've got to get these politicians out of office that think it's a great idea to hold the government hostage over something that should be routine, and that's passing a freaking budget. You want to, like, if you don't want to do your job, then we're going to get rid of you. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.